Today I messed up by realizing what Christians and Muslims actually believe in. Hello. So as a kid, and I promise this setup matters, I was raised in an Islamic household. Thing with being Islamic in America is there aren't any good Muslim schools to send your child so they could learn both faith and have a decent education. So my parents decided to send me to a Catholic school since it was closest to the values they wanted me to live by. At home, my grandmother would tell me stories from the Quran. I loved those stories, but sometimes, my grandmother would stop her storytelling voice and use her fact voice. Like she was telling me something that happened at the store. She was using her fact voice when she was telling me about the story of how a father had to sacrifice his son to God, but when he tried to bring down the knife, it wouldn't hurt his son because God had willed that his dedication meant he no longer needed to sacrifice his son. So I asked my grandmother if I could become invincible to knives if I believed in God enough, and she told me no, don't take the story literally. Take the meaning of the story. AKA do not stab yourself. So I was like, oh, all of these stories are metaphorical. The Bible at my school and the Quran at home are both collections of stories filled with wisdom meant to be interpreted as the situation sees fit. Like a superhero story where Jesus and Muhammad are the main characters. They're meant to help the story deliver me a meaning like Ash from Pokémon. I think you see where this is going. I thought they were stories. They're not real. And I grew up thinking that these religions were a way of life, not to be taken literally. Cut to driving with a friend from school through California to Palm Springs to see her grandmother. We were talking about how hot it was and I joked about how we needed a flood to cool us down. Where's God's wrath when you need, right? She laughed and started to draw the conversation to her admiration of Jesus. We started talking about miracles and hungry people, and I said, man, I wish we could do those kind of miracles for real. The world could use a few. And she replied something along the lines of, well, who knows? Jesus could be back soon, and I chuckled. Did that thing where you blow air out of your nose and smile. I thought it was a joke. Like Superman is gonna come fly us to her grandma's house. And she looked at me and asked me why I laughed. I told her I thought she was being sarcastic. She corrected me that she was not. Then I asked her, wait, are you saying like Jesus could actually, really show up on Earth? She got upset and said yes. Then the rest of the car ride was quiet. So instead of thinking Jesus is real, I thought, wow, my friend must be really gullible. Then once I got home, I told my grandmother about it. I thought it would be a funny story. Like telling someone that your friend thinks elves are real. But she looked at me and went, Muhammad is real. And so was Jesus. What are you talking about? For the next 10 minutes we kept talking and I started to realize that, oh my God, my grandmother thinks the stories are real. Does everyone think that the stories about water turning into wine, and walking on water, and touching sick people to heal them was real? Lastly, I pulled my pastor aside at school. And I asked him straight up, is Jesus real? And of course he was confused and said yes, and asked me if I thought Jesus wasn't real. I told him what I had thought my whole life, and he goes, yeah, everything in the Bible actually happened. So I asked him why none of those miracles have happened now or at all recorded in history, and he goes, I don't know, but the Lord does and we trust him. So now my friend doesn't talk to me. School is weird now because all of these ridiculous, crazy stories about talking snakes, angels visiting people, and being brought back from the dead are all supposed to be taken literally. And asking questions about it isn't okay either, apparently. So yep. That's eye-opening. Too long. Didn't read. I thought the Bible and Quran were metaphorical books and that everything in them wasn't real but rather just anecdotal wisdom. Then I learned people actually thought things in the Bible and Quran were real. Now everything is tense between me and my friends and family. Edit, so many comments. Wanted to say thank you for every respectful, well-thought-out theological opinion or suggestion. I can't say thank you enough to everyone in the comments, and all your different experiences with religion and spirituality are inspiration and ideas I will consider for a while. Even if I can't reply to you in time, thank you. Genuinely, thank you. Today I messed up by buying my dad an ancestry DNA test. My dad grew up with his family slamming him for not being his father's biological son. The rumor was that grandma had an affair with a man named Tillery when she got pregnant with my father. My grandparents always denied it, but the rumors have always hung around my dad. Grandpa was a Native American man, Grandma was white, and Dad was their only biological child. His siblings were adopted. My dad was blonde as a kid but got darker as he's aged, and he looks like Grandpa, so because we all believed 100% that he was biologically Grandpa's son, we decided to finally set his fears aside and prove it with a DNA kit for his 61st birthday. The kit came back today after nervously waiting several weeks, and there's a lot of matched relatives, with the name Tillery. No Native American DNA results at all, no one with his father's family's name. He's crushed and I feel awful. This has to be the worst thing I've ever done to my dad. Too long. Didn't read. I bought my dad a DNA kit to prove he wasn't the result of an affair, and instead proved he was. Update: we talked about the whole thing, and he's okay with the results. He was disappointed and needed to come to grips with it. He appreciates his dad even more now, and thinks he must have known all along. He is glad to have the information for health reasons, and to be able to look into some history in a way he couldn't before.